Okay, everyone, I am back. This is Tony, and today I'm going to be reviewing all of the red cards in Ravnica Allegiance. um, just so you know, this is a mostly limited set review, but sometimes if I notice a card will have constructed relevance, I will point it out. Like if a card is good for standard or modern or any of the older formats, I will certainly say so if I happen to notice it. Otherwise, this is mostly just a limited set review, and I'm going to get straight into it. First, I'm going to look at Active Treason. It's 2 and a red sorcery. It says gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. We've seen this card a lot. It's been in so many different sets in so many different ways. It's a fine card. It's mostly in an aggressive deck to steal one of their blockers and be able to use it to attack. If you're not in an aggressive deck, it's not very good. This card usually gets better with some sacrifice outlets. So if you can steal their creature and then sacrifice it to one of your cards for a benefit, that's what you want to be doing. Next, we have Amplifier. It's 2 and 2 red for a 1/1 elemental. Just that, a 4-mana 1/1. I'm hoping this has some sort of upside. And it says, at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Until your next turn, Amplifier's base power becomes twice that card's power, and its base toughness becomes twice that card's toughness. Put the revealed cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So let's see, you don't draw that card, but it does stay on the top of your library. Nope, because it goes to the bottom also in a random order. This card seems absolutely terrible in limited. I mean, I suppose maybe if you only have one other creature in your deck, maybe this would be fine in constructed, but I think this is a terrible, terrible card, and I do not want to be playing this one at all. Next, we have Burn Bright. It's 2 and a red for an instant that says creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Very simple, very elegant, and it's the kind of card I want in also an aggressive deck, but mostly in a go wide one. So if you have like a lot of small creatures, a lot of tokens, if you can get like 4 creatures out at the same time and swing in, this is for 8 extra damage, and that is usually enough to win the game for you. 3 mana is a little more than I would have liked for this, but it's perfectly acceptable, and I'll be playing that one for sure in a go wide strategy. Next, we have Burning Tree Vandal. It's 2 and a red for a 2/1 human rogue with Riot. I don't know if we've gone over Riot yet, so let me explain what it is. Riot says this creature enters the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. So you get to choose one or the other. Whenever Burning Tree Vandal attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So 3 mana haste 2/1 is about right, and a 3 mana 3/2 is also a good card. So the fact that it gets to rummage every single time you attack with it, I think this card is actually a pretty decent card overall. It's nothing like crazy, but it's a good card, and I like it. Next, we have Cavalcade of Calamity. It's a tough one to say. It's 1 and a red for an enchantment, and it says whenever a creature you control with power 1 or less attacks, Cavalcade of Calamity deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. You would have to really build your deck around this to get the most out of this in limited. In constructed, I can kind of see this if you're playing a lot of smaller creatures, or a lot of Thopters, stuff like that in standard. In limited, I mean, we get a lot of 1/1 tokens. So if you're playing some sort of Mardu with a lot of the Afterlife cards, this might be a decent card. Because if you have a lot of Afterlife, you're going to be getting a lot of 1/1 spirits, and this card is going to do some damage. But for the most part, I would say don't play this card. Unless, of course, you are in that strategy. And then please definitely do, because I think it'll be one of the better cards in your deck. Next is Clamor Shaman. It's 2 and a red for a 1/1 Goblin Shaman with Riot. Whenever it attacks, target creature an opponent controls can't block this turn. So I would love a 2/2 creature that when it attacks, target creature can't block. And for 3 mana, that's really good. For the hasty part of it, I can also see using this because there's sometimes when you're just your opponent's only gonna have one blocker. So if you can make it just keep not blocking, all your other creatures are gonna be getting in too. So this seems like a decent card to me also, and I'll definitely be playing a lot of this one in my red decks. Almost every red deck kind of wants this one, more in the Gruul than the Rakdos, but yeah, I like it. Next we have Dagger Caster. It's 3 and a red for a 2/3 Viashino Rogue. When Dagger Caster enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. So it's kind of like a bad version of Goblin Chain Whirler, but it is an uncommon, so you'll be seeing a lot of it. A couple things about this card that I see right now. It is a great enabler for Spectacle. I think we went over Spectacle in the black set, so you should know what that is by now. Where it deals 1 damage to each opponent. And each creature your opponents control, that's going to be killing a lot of the Afterlife creatures, all the spirits that are going to be out and about. So this card looks like a very high pick. If you are in a red deck at all, definitely take this card because I think it's going to be really strong. Next we have Deface. It is a single red mana for a sorcery that says destroy target artifact or destroy target creature with Defender. This is a sideboard card at best. Destroy target artifact, I haven't seen the artifacts yet. So if there's anything we really need to worry about, then remember this card. But sideboard only, do not put this in your main deck. Next we have Electro Dominance. It's X and then 2 red mana for an instant. This says Electro Dominance deals X damage to any target. You may cast a card with converted mana cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. This card is so good and constructed. I mean, not only is it dealing the X damage to any target like a fireball, but that costs 1 extra red mana, but then you're also getting a free spell out of it too. No matter what, limited or constructed, this is going to be a solid card. First pick for sure. Can you imagine just casting this and then getting like a draw 2 card spell out of it? It's so good. Definitely take it and take it highly. Next we have the Feral Maca. It's 1 and a red for a 2/2 cat, and it has a lot of flavor text. So if your deck wants a 2/2 creature for 2 mana, the typical bear, then this is the card that you should pick. Otherwise, I mean, you're not going to be prioritizing this highly, and it's just a cat. Next, I have Flames of the Raise Boar. It's 5 and a red for an instant. Flames of the Raise Boar deals 4 damage to target creature an opponent controls. Then, Flames of the Raise Boar deals 2 damage to each other creature that player controls if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. We're certainly seeing a lot of these power 4 or greater cards, and I really haven't seen a ton of them so far. So I don't know what they're really trying to go for, but let's look at it like this. It is 6 mana, deals 4 damage to target creature an opponent controls. That's very overcosted. I would expect that to cost 4 mana, not 6. The extra 2, I guess, is only if you have a power 4 or greater, because then it's going to deal 2 damage everywhere else too. But I don't know. It doesn't seem that great of a card to me. It really doesn't. I mean, you're not going to want a ton of 6 drops in your deck, and you're going to want them all to just work when you cast them, need some sort of, other cards to help it. So, I mean, if you happen to have a lot of creatures with power 4 or greater, fine, but I would not prioritize taking this card. Next, we have Gates Ablaze. It's 2 and a red for a sorcery. Gates Ablaze deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of gates you control. So there is most definitely a gate deck happening. And if you have it, this card is going to be a tremendous, tremendous board wipe. Even if you're not necessarily the quote gate deck, if you have, say, 3 gates in play, this is a strong card. So, I mean, I wouldn't prioritize it unless you happen to be taking a lot of gates. If you do, then yeah, this is a good card. But it's all deck dependent. Next we have Gore Clan Wrecker. 3 and a red for a 2/2 human warrior with Riot and Menace. Menace means this creature can be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. 4 mana, 3/3 Menace. That is a little above curve and what I would hope for. 2/2 haste Menace for 4. I guess I've seen it before. Either way, this card it's just like it's a fine card. It's not a tremendous card, but it'll get the job done most of the time. Next is Goblin Gathering. It's 2 and a red for a sorcery. This says create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to 2 plus the number of cards named Goblin Gathering in your graveyard. This card is tremendous. It's a common and limited. If you can get, can you imagine getting 6 of these? Each one is just getting 2 more and 2 more. This card seems like a lot of fun. If you take one, prioritize the second and third and fourth. As many as you can get. Next we have Gravelhide Goblin. It's 1 and a red for a 2/1 Goblin Shaman. With a green activated ability, it's 3 and a green. Gravelhide Goblin gets +2/+2 until end of turn. 2 mana 2/1 is about right for red on a common. That's what you'd expect. And 4 mana seems a bit overpriced for the +2/+2. But if you have it, it's good to at least scare your opponent, making them think that you're going to use it, even if you're not going to. If you're going to save that mana to cast another creature in the turn. Sometimes they just won't block. And then if they do block and it's a favorable outcome for you, just plus it up and cast your creature next turn. Next I have Immolation Shaman. It's 1 and a red for a 1/3 Viashino Shaman. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land that isn't a mana ability, Immolation Shaman deals 1 damage to that player. So we saw a card recently with this, and it did nothing in Constructed at all. So I'm assuming this one isn't going to either. It does have an activated ability also. A 3 red Immolation Shaman gets +3/+3 and Menace until end of turn. But that's a good ability. I would certainly like the 5 mana for the 3/3 Menace. But otherwise, this card is a pretty bad red card. I guess maybe if you happen to see an opponent using something, this is a sideboard card. But as it's a rare, don't take this highly. It is not a good card. Next, I got Light Up the Stage. Reminds me of a Vanilla Ice song. It's 2 and a red for a sorcery. It says exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. That seems really good already because it's until the end of your next turn. So you can cast this even if you don't have a ton of mana right now because you might next turn. Its spectacle cost is also just a single red. This card seems really, really strong. I can see this being even Constructed playable strong. for basically draw 2 for a single red mana. And if you can do that, that's great. So yeah, I see this definitely being played. Next is Mirror Match. It's 5 and a red for an enchantment. It says whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, flip a coin until you lose a flip. For each flip you won, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. I think this card is tremendous. And okay, so I place a lot of value in how much fun a card is, especially in limited. And this card seems like a lot of fun. You just never know what's going to happen, and if you could just keep winning flips, it's gonna be so good. And if a creature hasn't entered the battlefield ability or leave the battlefield ability, such as Afterlife, no, never mind. It's exile them at the beginning of the next end step, so it's not sacrifice. So if they haven't entered the battlefield ability, it's gonna work great. This card just looks like a lot of fun, and I'm going to probably play it every chance I get. Next, I have SuMadre Reveler. It's 1 and a red for a 2/2 human shaman. When it enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw a card. If SuMadre Reveler's spectacle cost was paid, which is 2 black-red, instead discard your hand and draw 3 cards. So, if you play this as the last card in your hand for its spectacle cost, you're just drawing 3 cards. For 4 mana, you're getting a 2/2, draw 3 cards. I love it. I love it a lot. Let's see. 2 mana 2/2 is just a fine card anyway. So, play it every chance you get. Especially if you're in the Rakdos, but if you're not, maybe you can kind of just splash a black mana to try to get to play it. Next is Rubble Reading. It's 3 and a red for a sorcery that says destroy target land, scry 2. Don't take this. Destroying land is just never a good idea. I mean, everyone has the dream that your opponent's going to get kind of mana screwed, and you're going to be able to destroy his only color, only blue source, and then he's not going to be able to cast any spells. But for 4 mana, just cast a 4 mana 3/3 and just crush in. You're gonna be better off 90% of the time. So don't play this card ever, like ever. Okay, next we have Rubble Belt Recluse. It's 4 and a red for a 6/5 Ogre Berserker. It attacks each combat if able. This card is really strong. I mean, just look at the guy in the picture. He is huge. A 5 mana 6/5 is way below curve. And the fact that he attacks every turn, I mean, what were you going to do? Block with him anyway? No, you have a 6/5 creature. You're going to be attacking in. This card is very good at common. You're going to be seeing this card a lot. Next, we have Rumbling Ruin. Kind of looks like the Walking Atlas that they had before. But anyway, it's 5 and a red for a 6/6 elemental. When Rumbling Ruin enters the battlefield, count the number of +1/+1 counters on creatures you control. Creatures your opponents control with power less than or equal to that number can't block this turn. Enters the battlefield, count the number of +1/+1 counters on creatures you control. Creatures your opponents control with power. I think that ability isn't going to be used that much. I mean, actually, no, Riot, I guess, is around. So creatures are going to have some counters on them in there. Just look at this mostly as a 6 mana 6/6, which is a good card. It's not tremendous, but it's a strong card, and you get the extra bonus that one turn your opponents can't block. I think if you look at it that way, you're going to understand really what the card is. It's a 6 mana 6/6, which is a good card. I mean, it's not a top pick, but it's in the top few picks, I think. Next is Scorchmark. It's 1 and a red For an instant that says it deals 2 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. This card seems good at killing off little things. If that's what you need to do, do it. And if you happen to see your opponent having a lot of 3 toughness creatures, side it out, because it's not going to do much good. So that's just my thought. I 2 mana deals 2. Okay, sure. It's only to a creature. It's not to a player. It's fine for what it is, but certainly don't prioritize this card. Next is the Skargan Hellkite. It's 3 red for a 4/4 dragon with flying, and it has Riot. So a 5 mana, either 5/5 flying or a 5 mana 4/4 haste flying are both tremendous cards. But that's not all. We do have an activated ability here. 3 in a red, Skargan Hellkite deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Activate this ability only if Skargan Hellkite has a +1/+1 counter on it. So they really want you to make it a 5/5. So that way you can use that ability. But, you know, sometimes getting that 4 extra damage in is way worth it. Because it's going to take you 4 turns of hitting with the 5/5 in order to make up for that 4 damage. And in the meantime, your opponent can come up with something. So, I mean, just pick your spots. Either way, this card is a easy pack 1, pick 1, take it hard, play it as much as you can. A+ level card, 100%. Next is Skewer the Critics. It's 2 in the red for a sorcery. It says deal 3 damage to any target. It has a spectacle of 1. So it is a lightning bolt if you have if you've dealt any damage to your opponent. And lightning bolt is a very strong card. 3 to any target for 3 is pretty much the going rate nowadays, except for lightning strike. So either way, this is a great card. Take this every single chance you get. Because just in case you have the spectacle, I mean, 1 mana, come on. You can't beat that at all. I mean, I can see this too also in, I don't know if it would go in a burn deck in Modern or Legacy, because 1 mana 3 is good, but what are you going to take out for it? You know what I mean? So, anyway, next we have Smelt Ward Ignis. It's 1 in a red for a 2/1 elemental. It's 2 in a red, sacrifice Smelt Ward Ignis to gain control of target creature with power 3 or less until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. So it's an active treason on a stick with a minus, with just a little less of power, because it can only have power 3 or less. I think this is a good card. I really do. Like a 2 mana 2/1 is fine. It's what you'd expect in red. And then once it gets outpowered by your opponent's creatures, then you just sacrifice it and go at it. So yeah, I like this card a lot. If you're in a red deck, take this one highly. Next you have the Spear Spewer. I love the names in this set. It's a 1 mana 0/2 defender, and it has tap, deals 1 damage to each player. This is a spectacle, just crusher right here. Every chance you get, you're gonna just tap 1 to do 1 damage to a player. An 0/2 defender doesn't seem great to me. So I mean, I don't know. It's fine, but if you're in the spectacle deck, take this card, because it's definitely going to utilize it. And if you're not, don't even bother with it. Next you have Spike Wheel Acrobat. It's 3 in the red for a 5/2 human rogue with spectacle, 2 in a red. 5/2 creature is good for 4. It's great for 3. Like on turn 3, if you play a 5/2, I mean, can you imagine if you use the next card, Storm Strike, on it? I mean, you're going to be able. It's probably going to die the first time. Like most of the time, with only 2 toughness, it's going to die on its first attack. But if you have some tricks to try to get things around, then this is going to be great. Or if you can give it some +1/+1 counters somehow, this is going to be a great card. Just be wary with that 2 toughness. Don't go ham with these. Next we have Storm Strike. It's a single red mana for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 and first strike until end of turn, and then you can scry 1. This card it's exactly what you'd expect. It's kind of like Shore Strike, but not as much bonus for the pluses. But you get to scry 1, which is also kind of nice. It's pretty much what you want in red. And finally, we have the Tin Street Dodger. It's a single red mana for a 1/1 Goblin Rogue with haste. Tin Street Dodger can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with Defender. This again is another good spectacle enabler. It pretty much is doing everything you want. It's unblockable. So if you're in the Spectacle deck, take this. If you're in the Riot deck, do not take this. Okay, so that's going to be it for today. That is all the red cards in Ravnica Allegiance. Tomorrow you'll be seeing all the green cards from Ravnica Allegiance. And then we just have the multicolored and artifacts to show you. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.